Okay, let's go back and look at the code again, now that we have some understanding of the TM package. So again, we load in all this stuff that we're going to be using. Cluster is one thing we'll talk about later. Okay, so the first 283 lines is all about just reading in the data. Now let's take another look at the data. So the data is here. Yeah, this is the one. So let's look at this. So this is the data, and I think there were like 40,000 movies or something like that. And so there's a lot of data here, as we said earlier. And now the question is, now actually I'm not sure how he downloaded this data, so we also would have to think about how to download our data. That's a major problem. Well, that's a problem. I'm not sure if that's a major problem. It might even be easy. Maybe they just make it simple to download it. Okay, once we have this file, then we need to. It's not like this is supposed to be a date, but at the beginning, our program is not going to know that this is a date, and this is supposed to be the, I guess, the top or the title, and then this is supposed to be the tagline or whatever they called that. And then here's another one with a longer tagline, and our program's not going to know how to deal with all of this. So he spends 283 lines of coding. It's not all coding, it's a lot of it's comments, but getting this into a form or a format that he can then data mine. So let's take a little look at that. So let's first of all notice, let's see, there's a hashtag and there's a quote, but this one, oh, well this one has this is kind of weird. Look at that, there's a single quote here, but there's no closing single quote. So these kinds of things cause big headaches, but we have to deal with them. Okay, and look at this one, I don't know what this is. Hack/roots, that sounds like an error. So that's also going to create problems. So anyway, they all seem to have quotes though here and here. And then there's going to be a date following the name of the movie, and then a new line, and then starting of the tagline, I think they call this, and so on. But as we see, they're not all perfectly formatted. So we're going to have to deal with that as we try to get it into a file. Remember, I guess we want to get it into a plain text document, perhaps. So let's look at this anyway. We're not going to go through all that code, and I'll just say that that's a big problem that you have to deal with. It's much harder when you're talking about text data. So we don't normally spend 283 lines reading in our data, but that's basically what he's doing here. He says there are this many records in the full taglines file. It's a bit hard to figure out. So this is part of his this 283 lines is he's doing some debugging of the work that he's doing, and that's even harder to figure out because it's his own particular kind of debugging. But I'm just going to go through this very briefly. Debugging. He has something called data store, I guess, where he's storing the data. Data cleaning. Check the date file. If it does not start with this, remember the date started with this thing, or end with that, strip any character other than numeric in the date field. Use regular expression. At this time, all valid dates should be 6 characters long. I guess they mean open parentheses, the date, and the close parentheses. So you have to deal with all this kind of stuff. It's very, you know, nitpicky. You really have to, but you have to do, that's exactly what you have to do. Strip the parentheses from replace date and create new. So you have to do all of this kind of stuff. So finally, here, at this point we have one large data frame with text columns. So now it's stored in this thing called movies. Okay, now if you do head on movies, you'll see that it looks kind of good. You got the name, which is the movie, and then the year, I guess, and the title, and the tagline. And that's, you know, we have a few entries here. Okay, and let's see one more thing. And if we do mode of movies, we see that this is a list. So the movies is a list at this point. And just to point out, he does use this file called, this function called scan, and that I believe is being used to basically to read in the data. So we could look up that function. That's an important function to check, but I won't do that right now. Okay, the next thing is he plots the frequency of the movies by year. So let's take a look at that. So it's just he does it as a PDF file. And oh, by the way, one other thing. As I said earlier, you do need to run this file here, because that creates a file here, which we use in our program. And this was also used in chapter 3. And this is, by the way, this is used for making some split plot utility for grid graphics. So it's for making some graphics where you have several things, several graphs on the same screen. So here, if we run this using something called GeoHistogram, which we could look up, but I'm not going to do that right now either, we get, I think it's this one here, we get that. Okay? Alright, let's stop here and then continue analyzing the code.